So let's say you want to make a game. You want to create a huge world with dozens of characters the player can interact with and a story that adapts to their choices along the way. Now, if you want this game to release in the next 5 years, you're going to need a team of professionals to create assets, record dialogue, implement mechanics, and manage your team. In order to pull this off, you're going to need lots of money, a shared workspace, and team members willing to commit hundreds, if not thousands of hours to turning your vision into a reality. Now imagine trying to make this game without money and without a shared workspace. For large-scale mod projects, this is the harsh reality. Over the last few months, I've had the opportunity to sit down with some modders from Fallout Miami and Cascadia to discuss their upcoming projects and the trials and tribulations they've faced over the years. Some of these issues are inherent to game development, while others are unique to the modding scene. This is what it takes to make a large-scale Fallout mod. Last year, a small modding team released a 2-minute-long trailer for a Fallout mod. It's an ambitious mod that aims to recreate Miami with a Fallout twist. There are feral ghouls roaming the beautiful beaches, palm trees scattered around the city, and charred tourists lounging in recliners. All of this is set to a familiar rendition of the Fallout 4 title theme. Shortly after the team released the trailer, it went viral. It now sits at 6.5 million views on YouTube and is one of the most anticipated Fallout mods ever. Fallout Miami takes place within Fallout 4's story. Your quest begins in the Commonwealth and takes you to the irradiated beaches of Miami, Florida. From there, you will meet different factions as you explore the vacation wasteland. Arguably, one of the most interesting things about Fallout is how it twists American history to create unique futuristic settings. And the Fallout Miami team is dipping into Miami's history in order to give it a believable spin. Miami itself wasn't hit by a nuke, but it sounds like the Cuban Missile Crisis and Bay of Pigs could play an important role in Fallout Miami's apocalyptic history. However, this being a Fallout game, don't expect these events to play out as they do in a textbook. One of Fallout Miami's project leaders describes the Bay of Pigs as a combined arms operation, complete with laser weapons and power armor used to push the Chinese out of Cuba. While it sounds like you won't be able to take part in the battle, you will hear a lot about it as you explore. If you've kept an eye on the modding community over the last decade or so, you've probably seen similar projects like this pop up. Projects that garner a lot of attention go quiet for years and either fizzle out or, if they're lucky, release years later. A prime example of a large-scale mod that crossed the finish line was Project Brazil, also known as Fallout New California. The project was conceptualized in 2010 and released late last year. However, mods like Fallout New California or Beyond Skyrim's Bruma are the exception, not the standard. So let's say, despite the odds stacked against you, you decide to move forward with your large-scale mod. You design a map and create a loose narrative. Next thing you'll need is to recruit a team. Luckily, you've been entrenched in the modding scene for quite some time now, and you know some killer 3D artists, some crack level designers, and a couple of sharp writers to join your project. Your team is knocking out production tasks and creating assets at a steady rate. With that creative burst of energy, you decide to expand. You and your team put together a trailer and upload it to YouTube. Overnight, it goes viral, and when you wake up, you have hundreds of applications in your inbox. With a team of this size, you think you could knock out your mod in no time. Kay Constantine and Sir Balin, two project leads of Fallout Miami, had a similar experience after the team released a trailer for their mod. Fallout Miami was first conceptualized sometime in 2016 by a modder who goes by Mika999. He began working on a world space, but never really expected it to expand as much as it did. As the team was starting to ramp up production, they needed to expand their team. This is a common practice for mod teams, and it's usually why we see trailers for mods so early. When a studio or publisher releases a trailer, it's to build hype. When a large-scale mod team releases a trailer, it's usually because they need to increase their headcount.
That was actually one of the points of the trailer and why we were pushing ourselves to actually get it out. We knew that we have a really strong aesthetic that people appreciate if they can see it, so we needed people to see it, and quite a lot of people saw it.
However, more people can lead to more problems. It's easy to keep track of a team of 5 people. Keeping track of 25 to 50 people is another story. Without a clear roadmap, a concise workflow, and some management, a mod project can get derailed rather quickly. The last thing you want is for your volunteers to be doubling up on work or chipping away at something that got cut weeks ago.
In terms of a project with something close to like 100 people that have contributed so far and a pretty sizable active team, you need a sort of project management experience to get things done and more goal-oriented approach.
In an office, if you saw a team member working on something that was cut, you'd probably tap them on the shoulder and let them know. Or maybe you'd hold an all-hands meeting where you can share your updated vision. However, with the team scattered across different countries and different time zones, you can't really do that. Another issue that can arise from a big team is an ever-expanding scope. Being on the outside, it's easy to think, oh, they have a much bigger team now. That means they can make the mod even bigger. According to K. Constantine, this is a recipe for disaster, and it's why Fallout Miami's size has largely remained the same.
The scope didn't really expand much at all because one thing that is sort of a constant with large mod projects like this is that they don't release. Things like New California are very much the exception. These things just don't become a reality. And one of the problems with that is feature creep and the constantly expanding scope. And we wanted to keep things controlled. We wanted to have a plan and stick to it.
But that begs the question, exactly how big is Fallout Miami supposed to be? According to K. Constantine, it should be slightly bigger than Fallout 4's Bethesda-developed DLC, Far Harbor. The world will be slightly bigger, there will be slightly more characters, and the story will be slightly longer. The restraint the team is showing might disappoint some fans, but like I said before, it's important to remember that most of these large-scale mods never see the light of day. If anything, that restraint and focus is a promising sign that Fallout Miami will cross the finish line.
The only thing that's happened is the time horizon for how long it might take to get this finished has shrunken quite a bit.
So you've built up your team, you have a perfect roadmap and an airtight workflow. Everyone knows exactly what they should be doing and when it should be done by. But then, your lead level designer finds a job at a AAA studio, your 3D artists are buried in schoolwork, and your lead writer is getting married and doesn't have as much time to commit to the project.
We've had people who show up, contribute one asset or an art asset, and then they have to leave. We've had people who join the team and actually don't even finish their first project and have to leave. We've had people that join and have stayed with the team pretty much constantly since they've joined.
After years of refining and developing your vision with these people, they need to move on, leaving many of their projects half done. The release of your mods seemed far enough away as is, but now the goalposts have been moved even further back. Not only do you have to find replacements for all those open positions, but you have to catch everyone up on years of work. While turnover can be a looming fear when it comes to large-scale mods, most of the modders I spoke to didn't seem all that worried. A bigger challenge was motivating and organizing volunteers who have a fluctuating schedule and can only commit a few hours a week to the project. However, another Fallout mod I took a look at has an interesting history with turnover.
Moon River, wider than a mile.
The mod was first conceptualized shortly after Fallout 4 released by a modder named Alex. Cascadia takes place in and around Seattle. Based on the trailers and gameplay the team has shown, it's shaping up to be a vibrant and imaginative take on the Fallout universe that not only aims to expand on Fallout 4, but takes some of the Fallout series' best aspects and inject them into Fallout 4's engine. The team is implementing a redone dialogue interface that ditches the limiting dialogue wheel, and they are aiming to revive Fallout 3's perk system. Unlike Miami, Cascadia has almost nothing to do with Fallout 4's setting, story, or plot. The mod takes place years after the events of 4. You play as the Drifter. Your backstory as the Drifter is more or less a clean slate. I sat down with the former project lead Flanarn and the current project lead Leon. Both gave me a similar impression of the mod: ambitious. Even though leadership has changed hands a few times, it sounds like the team has a clear vision of what Fallout Cascadia should and will look like. However, taking on the role of project lead wasn't an easy transition.
The first day I became project lead, I woke up and I literally had 100 messages waiting for me. The moment I woke up, I'm just like, oh boy.
Fortunately, things are going a lot smoother now. However, his sleep schedule has been interesting. Part of this is due to the fact that his team is scattered across the world. There isn't a time that works for everyone, and that means early mornings and late nights so he can coordinate with his team. And for a mod this big, coordination is key. According to Leon, the team plans to deliver a map that is roughly twice the size of Fallout 4's. In fact, the sheer size of Cascadia has caused a number of issues on its own. One in particular had to do with version control, which is a way modders and developers compile assets to push out a build.
So we had this issue where whatever we did, we could add nothing else to the file. The creation kit would not tell us anything. It would not error out. It would just not let you add anything. And we actually had this issue for about a month and a half, if I recall correctly, where there were a couple of us that were trying to work behind the scenes, trying to figure out what was going on. And we just could not figure it out at all. And it's because our world space is so high that we have a lot more objects. So I guess this isn't really an issue that people would catch, but there's a bug with the creation kit where once you hit a certain amount of objects in the file, it just will refuse to let you add any more.
Fortunately, Leon and the Cascadia team managed to get to the bottom of this issue. On the other hand, Leon didn't seem all that worried about turnover. It happens, but it's not always as detrimental as it could be. Even if someone gets halfway through a project before dropping off, they can usually find someone to pick up the slack. Turnover with writers, though, can be a bit more complicated.
When it comes to writing, that's really annoying because then chances are it doesn't exactly fit with whoever takes on that task next is vision, and then they usually just decide to redo it completely.
No matter how prepared you are, there are always going to be fires you will need to put out. And at the end of the day, investing hours and hours into a mod usually won't pay the bills. So why do these modders dedicate their lives to projects like these? Well, for some, it's simply a hobby. It's something creative to do after work or class that builds camaraderie. Others contribute to projects like these to bolster their portfolio and hopefully land a paid position at a studio. Some do it because they love Fallout and want to put their own unique spin on that world. Some do it for all three. When I asked Leon and Constantine why they spend day in and day out working on their mods, they gave me similar answers. They love the Fallout series and they wanted to make something that fans would enjoy. So when do these mods come out? You probably know what I'm gonna say, but I have no idea. The teams had rough estimates as to when the public might get their hands on these projects, but anything can happen. And with all things considered, I think the very least we can do for these modders is to be patient. Like you, I am beyond excited to get my hands on Miami and Cascadia. Both mods are shaping up to be an exciting take on the modern Fallout series, and both teams have something interesting and unique they are bringing to the table. However, I think it's important to highlight the amount of work, dedication, and sacrifice that comes with projects like these. Even the mods that fizzle out live on in some way or another. Lessons learned from some of these mods are taken and applied elsewhere, and sometimes assets, levels, and characters are reworked for another mod. And in some cases, someone with a fresh perspective might pick up the torch for a dormant large-scale mod and push the project a little further. Thank you all for watching this video. There are a couple people I want to thank for helping make this possible. The Fallout Miami team, the Fallout Cascadia team, K. Constantine and Sir Balin, two project leads behind Miami. Leon and Flanarn. Leon is the current lead of Project Cascadia, and Flanarn was the previous one who I interviewed at first. And then K. Pelto Draws, who made the thumbnail for this video. You should check out her artwork if you get the chance. And finally, all the music you heard in this video are from Fallout Miami and Fallout Cascadia, so make sure to check out those tracks on YouTube if you did enjoy them. Thank you.